Hi, I'm Blair and welcome to Cellar Notes. We're joined again by Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Blair.
Today we're going to talk about wine labels and hopefully get some of the confusion and some of the mystery out of the wine labels. Basically, there's two different types of wines, what's called Old World and what's called New World. New World generally consists of the United States, Australia, New Zealand, South America. Old World would be Europe, you know, Spain, Italy, France, Germany. One of the big differences between Old World and New World wines, and where a lot of the confusion lies, is New World labels their wine by the particular grape. In other words, Cabernet, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Syrah. Whereas Old World wines label more by region or by city or by whatever particular AVA that the grape is grown in. So when you look at a bottle of Chianti, it's actually coming from a region called Chianti, and the grape they use is Sangiovese. But it won't say that anywhere, and that's where a lot of the confusion lies in the American public and the American buying public. In the United States, there are certain things that are required to be on the front of the label. Matt, you know about some of these things.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different stuff that's supposed to be and it's required to be on the front of the label, right?
The front being the key word there.
Yes, indeed. Because they never actually define as to what the front label is. So almost every bottle of wine in the liquor store is facing backwards. You're looking at the back label, which is where all the fun, exciting marketing stuff comes in. But the stuff that's required to be on the label is the type of wine. It's got to say whether it's Merlot or Cabernet or red or table white, and you've got to have the vineyard, the producer, on there, and where the producer is from. It's Geyserville or Napa Valley or Sonoma and whatever.
Including an address.
Including an address, yep. And you also need the alcohol content, correct?
Correct.
And warning containing sulfites, because almost all wines contain sulfites. And if they do, it's got to have that on the label. There's a government alcohol warning.
Well, those are all things that are required by the United States government for American wines. Now, it is also required that imported wines coming to the United States and sold in the United States adhere to those regulations as well. So they must also have all that information. Now, so
you could have a wine in Europe and it could have a completely different label than when you buy it here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then they'll either stick on an American-only version of the label, or they'll add on some pieces in order to comply with the law.
All right.
The other thing that's necessary for the bottle is the amount of volume of wine in the bottle. For example, 750 milliliters. Some things that are not required but are optional to the wine producers include the origin. In other words, if you want to declare a certain AVA.
What's an AVA?
An AVA is the American Viticultural Area, and that's who
right.
dictates if you can call a wine by that certain AVA. In other words, an AVA would be Napa Valley, Sonoma, Lodi, North Coast. If you call it California, you could be using grapes, you know, from north to south. It's a very large state.
Gotcha.
If you call it Napa Valley, for instance, it would have to be at least 75% of the grapes used to make that wine have to come from Napa Valley. If you were to call a Napa Valley wine, let's say Cabernet, 75% of the wine used to make that Cabernet must be Cabernet. You can use some other blending for the other 25%. The other option is labeling something maybe with a single vineyard. And in order to put a single vineyard on a label, 95% of the grapes have to come from that particular vineyard. So there's a lot of good information, and you can learn a lot about the wine that you're thinking about drinking by reading the label. And several wines, a lot of wines on the back label have descriptors of the wine. Lots of times these aren't totally accurate. They're more marketing friendly than anything else, but it gives you a ballpark. You know, it gives you a good idea of what the winemaker, what the producer is going for. When we're talking about Old World wines, there are completely different regulations. Like I said, in for example, France, if you get a bottle labeled Vouvray, it's going to be 100% Chenin Blanc, because the law requires that in order to be called a Vouvray, you have to use 100% Chenin. But it may not say that on the label. So if you're looking for a crisp, clean, white wine, goes well with turkey, goes well with ham, great on the deck, it's a Chenin Blanc, it's Vouvray, made in France. That's where a lot of the confusion lies. And there's a lot of different things that are required in different countries. I don't want to, bore anybody and get into too many of them, but
because there are quite a few.
There are way too many to talk about. But they do have what's called appellation of origin, which is a lot like the AVA, and they have these in every country under different names. For example, Chianti, in order to be Chianti, it has to be classified, and they get this little ring with the rooster on it. Every French wine will have the appellation control on the front, which will label what region it comes from. So this, for example, is a Macon Village. Macon Village is where it's produced, and it's Chardonnay. It would take too long to explain all this. Come on in, we'll be glad to sort it through with you. But there is good information on all these labels from every country if you can get through and decipher what they're really trying to tell you.
Yeah, you do have to break through the language barrier, don't you? Because a lot of the things that we think of in English are actually written in French on French bottles. Like, for example, the word Burgundy is spelled completely different, pronounced completely different. I think it's B-O-U-R-G-O-G-N-E. It doesn't look anything like Burgundy. So if you didn't know that specifically, you wouldn't know where to find a white Burgundy.
Correct. And we'll be glad to help you out in any one of our locations to help you decode the labels. But if you take some time, read through them. There's a lot of great information and a lot of knowledge to be learned from the labels in any country. Thanks again for joining us on Cellar Notes. Thank you for being with us, Matt.
Thanks, Blair.